social hygiene and the leveling up of the epistemic commons, which education plays a big part in, say. And,
the third
and then
thing?
the cultural spiritual sphere, which would be independently produced science and art and education, and right. So this should remain like I always say, when we separated church and state, we should have separated culture and state, not just churches, because the public school system has been a tool for economics, and increasingly so. So I think that's a horrible thing. But in any case, I was interested in the economic part because I was interested in business, and I liked the way through social association, businesses have to be social. You cannot be a business on an island. You can meditate in the Himalayas. You can join your little political group and stay in that group, but in the economy, it's a level playing field because it's rigged, because it's not separated properly. But it is the place where ideology doesn't work, right? Where you have to actually meet the needs of people. And again, that's rigged somewhat, but I want to be part of the solution. And so increasingly that became part of my picture. So I added the culinary side, I added a social conscience, and I also knew when I had kids that they were going to go to a Waldorf school because of the deep understanding of human and child development. So then you can add human development into that picture as I go along and studying these things, working on these things, going to college. I definitely wasn't going to go to college out of high school. But I found a way to make peace with the school. Went to University of Michigan at my hometown campus in Flint, and studied philosophy, history of philosophy of science, and then finished that 4 years, and then promptly went back to being a meat cutter. And I did various other things. I traveled some, but so we landed here after seeing this Utney Reader piece, and I worked for Whole Foods. That was my first job, and it was Wellspring back then. They had 3 stores in the Triangle, Winston-Salem, the original in Durham, which is where I worked, and one in Raleigh. Did I say Raleigh? Durham, Raleigh, and
Winston-Salem.
Yeah, it wasn't Winston-Salem. It was Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill. Sorry. Then they added a Winston-Salem.
At that time, Wellspring was...
Which I helped open.
But that was independently owned. Who's got it?
It was transitioning, Lex Alexander.
Yeah,
It was
right.
transitioning at that time.
Right.
And he was ostensibly still in the position of overseeing those 3 stores, but the sale had already happened.
Okay.
And that's when John Mackey came. I remember to this day. This is an aside.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He came and talked to us and told us that unions were parasites, which is not exactly a great social conscience mentality, particularly for somebody who came from Flint, Michigan, which is a UAW town.
Right.
Sit-down strikes, the birth of the union, and there are problems with unions. But again, the problem has to do with economic domination in the public sphere, not
So y'all didn't get all
intention.
off the right foot then, you and John did.
Oh no, I didn't. I was fierce in
I
the
bet
relationship
you
with
were.
him there, and he did not like that at all.
Yeah.
So my days were numbered there. I actually ended up being the team leader of the meat department, and then I got an opportunity to go to a store called Fowler's in Durham, and it had been there, had been in Durham as an institution since the early 1900s, and it had a butcher shop and one of the most famous wine shops and coffee, and it was a place for it was the local place for gourmet, high-end, refined sensibility food. And while I was at Whole Foods, I really got into the conscience of food, like the impact food has on the economy and the land. And it wasn't so much the case at Fowler's, but at Fowler's, we had a really great culture. I called it FU, it was Fowler's University, and we had some of the best chefs to come through Durham come and work with us, and there was this cross-pollination, and so we had a kitchen, and then eventually I became the kitchen manager and the meat manager, and I sort of crossed over to the culinary side then. Then there was an opportunity to build a house, and I wanted to have that experience. So I was 42 years old, never picked up a skill saw in my life. Went out to the woods of Chatham County and built a house around a couple of old tobacco barn structures. That was quite an experience. While there, I would go in. It was a lean and mean time because I'm working all day long, and I got a construction loan, so I was living off the construction loan. And I got down to 145 pounds. I weighed like 190 right now, and so I was like gaunt almost. And but I'd go in and have lunch every once in a while in a place called the General Store in Pittsburgh. It's the Pittsburgh General Store. And they're famous for their burritos. Ours is better. Because I went a different direction. But they were good. But anyway, I got to know people there, and I heard that there was a co-op opening, the Chatham Marketplace Co-op in downtown Pittsburgh. I don't know if you guys have been there yet, but I'm sure you will. They were wanting to open a co-op, and so I became a founding manager of co-op. I started a month ahead, got the thing ready, and I did all of the stuff that was in my wheelhouse, like pâtés and cheeses and meats and food now. So and we made quite a splash, and I got to know farmers, and that I'd never turned back after that, because then it became not just this sort of generalized social conscience, but there's a farmer sitting in front of me. Right. They come to the place. I'm serving their food because that was our mission. So that the seriousness and joy of providing food that a farmer brings you and serving that farmer it's the closed loop that I think is one of the attractive elements of this threefold social order, because you can't economically pull one over on somebody that you're looking into their eyes and you know the work that they're doing and that they need a fair wage and they need to make a living. And so having had that experience, which was awesome, I was feeling a little stifled, because one of the problems sometimes with co-ops is they can be captured by the ideology of what they're doing, and they mean well. They want social justice, but they weren't running an economic organization that could provide the kind of diversity that would allow for that. And so it was like sophomoric a little bit. It's like an activism out of a college dorm. And I was like, that's not grown up. Like we need this kind of spirit, but it's only going to happen out of entrepreneurship, in my opinion. There are exceptions in the co-op world, and they're good ones, but they also tend to be somewhat exclusive. And I've always wanted to do, ever since I really became like wholesale a chef, I always wanted to do food in the environment where the food came from, and in a no-frills environment that was street level, that wasn't aloft, metaphorically and literally, from the people that we served. And so this came open. It's somewhat complex. There's a lovely story behind that, but I won't bore you with that because it'll take a while. But in any case, the relationships here looked good to me, and that was the most important part to me. Actually, my first impulse was to open a bakery bistro where the butchery is. I loved that corner space. I came in here and I was like, yeah, it kind of stunk, and it had, as Eric used to say, it had pizza going this way and hot dogs going this way. It was prefabricated food, came in pre-fried and pre-cooked, and just sat on a roller. But yeah, well, we still have Budweiser and cigarettes, which is part of the thing. So we wanted to remain inclusive.
Right.
Like we wanted the Natty Light buyer to rub shoulders with the kombucha buyer.
That's cool. Yeah.
We wanted the person getting the barbecue sandwich to rub shoulders with the person getting sea scallops. And so we really saw something unique starting to unfold there. Very special. I get teary-eyed a little bit thinking about that worked, right? It's like ideal for me. For some people, it'd be like, yeah, it's messy. So it's like there's too much chaos in that. But as Margaret can attest, it helps bring order to my chaos. chaos is fertile ground, or is the ground out of which fertility is born. So we started this 15 years ago. My wife and I had hired her away from law school, basically, at Chatham Marketplace, appealed to her conscience, and she became a baker, and she learned how to bake with a French baker, Fred Belanger, and he taught her as he was leaving to work for Habitat for Humanity how to bake. So she came here, and she hadn't done biscuits yet. And so for a while, she tried to get the biscuits right, and they weren't working, and I started to buy Pillsbury biscuits. Oh God, she was so offended by that. But she got it. She figured it out. Then she went on to go to Zingerman's in Ann Arbor. Took a bread baking class that had to do with quick breads like English muffins and pizza. So we developed our own recipe for English muffins and pizza. So they're here. They're still here to this day. 9th Street took our English muffin recipe and produced them for us. And for a while, Weaver Street was doing our pizza crust. We had to find an alternative to that. But that's part of the sort of ingenuity, scratch start to the process. We had a little sign out there that said, "Bring us your produce, right, and your eggs." And we started with Cisco and the big food guys, and we gradually flipped the percentage of food we bought from people who were bringing it. And it helped to have been at the Chatham Marketplace, because then we had a steady supply of suppliers, let's say. And also artisan folks and jams and art itself. And so to make a short story even longer, as you heard, I heard Eric speak at Chatham Marketplace. It was at one of the owner meetings, the very first one, I believe. That was at Alan. No, that was you. It was the very first owner meeting. I still remember. Alex, it was the next year, illustrious company, and so I knew him, and I got to know some other people that were in this community, and I mostly got to know Lisa because she loved the food so much. She would ask me for recipes and
Say she came out of
yes,
the store wanted a recipe.
and we flirted a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I did.
She's super cute.
Yeah.
And
It's a good thing we should sell it. So it's a good test.
yeah. So we had a great rapport from the beginning. And so one day we're here, and I think it was after was it 2009? First
That's why you're here. I like to go with your
It seemed like crazy hubris, though. Like we started in 2008. I think it was actually the same year, 2008.
Okay.
And Eric said, "You need to have T-shirts." I'm like, "You're right. We need to have T-shirts." Like, really? People are going to buy our T-shirts? And we buy T-shirts. We're at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's going to buy our T-shirts. But like being Eric, the Napoleonic, very friendly, Ross Perot-ian Napoleonic figure that he is. What did Ross Perot say? That horse is out of the barn. So he came. We sat in that booth.
Okay.
He had the design ready. No, it was 2009.
Okay.
And the design came from. We did the way we started was breakfast and lunch and Sunday brunch. And the store didn't open until noon on Sundays before we took it over, and then we pushed that back to 10 so we could do a Sunday brunch. Then we added Saturday brunch, and eventually we added dinner. And our very first dinner was not until November of 2009, so it's a little over a year, because we started in June of 2008. And in that year of 2009, Paper Hen Puppet did an adult. You guys know about Paper Hen Puppet intervention?
Oh, I do.
It's incredible.
I'll
You
share
have
with
to
you
go
guys.
see them at Forest Theater every Saturday from the beginning of August through a couple weekends into September now. It's incredible. They are sort of an artist activist group for education and for ecological responsibility, but they tell basically creation stories in a sense. They pull from that magical kind of trans versus adult child sensibilities. It's just always brilliant. And this year, Nina Freelon, who is a Grammy-winning jazz singer who won a Grammy for doing jazz cover of Stevie Wonder songs some years ago. And her son, who just won a Grammy for a child album, a rap album, Pierce Friedel, are part of the program. So she's going to be doing the narrating. There's creative juices flowing between them. It's going to be the best that they've ever done, and what they do is great. So they have like these puppets like 20 feet tall. It's an outdoor theater.
It's a beautiful place in Chapel View.
And they end it with a sort of shadow puppets at the end, like that Japanese style shadow puppets. It's just the tones, the music is way over the top good. It's going to be even better this year. So that's a promotion that I didn't need to go into, but so another sidebar. So this is fantastic because they did this show, and it was for adults only. And it was about it was a sort of meditation on a Buddhist meditation on death. It's called the Hungry Ghost, which is a concept of coming out of Buddhism that has to do with resolution after death, something like that, having to do with the karmic stream. Anyway, they did that, and then so tongue in cheek, I'm the song and dance guy. It's like, hey, let's do a dinner and a show, and so we promoted it that way. And I did a limited menu, and it was inevitable we were going to do a dinner menu eventually, but this is the perfect time. And a bunch of people from Chatham County came, old fans say. And anyway, the place was absolutely packed. I thought it'd be moderate. People had pulled the bread crates out, milk crates. They were making tables and chairs by themselves, just the kind of customer service we expect. So that day, that evening, I was finishing up. We got our butts kicked. And a local artist, his name's R.J. Dobbs, had not moved here yet. He was a New York artist, and he'd come back and forth. And he's part of a group called Water Song, and they're based on the Lakota Indian tradition. They have a sound chamber and various other things, and they have ritual and stuff there. And so he was visiting for that. I think he was the fire tender. In any case, I didn't know him at that point. He stood up in the middle of the restaurant, and as I was walking out, like to go to the bathroom or something, I think, and started applauding, and there was a big round of applause, and it was very teary-eyed I was, and he just declared, that restaurants in New York aren't this good, da-da-da-da-da. And so that was very moving. But the next day, I'm there making the glacé for the short ribs, because I know we're going to get killed again. This was a Friday night, so this would have been Saturday. And I look out, and we weren't busy because nobody had figured out we do brunch yet on Saturdays. And I looked out, and you'll see today there are 5 stars, and he was plumbing the line for the 5 stars. And I'd look up every once in a while, there'd be a star. I didn't know that's what he was doing. And then I'd look up again, and there's 3 stars. And I look up, he's gone, and there's 5 stars there. Because that's what he said that night. This is a 5-star experience, something like that. And so Junior here caught wind of it, and so he came up with this idea. He probably was here that night. So he came up with this idea, and he was like, "How about your local 5-star gas station? Stars emblazoned across." I'm like, "Hey, this guy's creative. He's probably never designed anything since in his life."
And I have the idea as well designed it, but yeah.
That was a great idea. So that's how we came to get the T-shirts, and that's a good way to tell this story, I think, too, because we're friends, we love each other, we've known each other intimately now for all of the 15 years.
Wow,
We've broken a lot of bread together, spent Christmas together, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve together.
But one of the most meaningful stories I have with this guy, I don't remember this, is Charlie Sinner's my back door neighbor, and he does grass-fed beef, which he serves a lot of beef down here. But this is a couple of years ago, a typical beef cattle has a life expectancy of maybe less than 2 years.
Oh yeah.
So Doc had a cow that was like 17 years old. I mean, you just never have a cow that long. So he came going to put the cow down. So Doc had the cow slaughtered, brought Jeff some meat, and it was Doc and I sat down.
Yeah, still have a picture that comes up.
And honored that cow, and the whole, that cow lived his whole life on his farm, and he took it away to the slaughter. And we came down and just, we honored that cow that night, and have the chef prepare it, and Doc raised it. I mean, it was
mind-blowingly good.
I mean, yeah.
Wait, you ate it?
Yeah, they call them cull cows.
Yeah,
So,
normally they just grind it for hamburger.
But at that age, they're still good?
sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah.
It just depends. But often they are, particularly the way particularly the selection Doc has made as relates to the breed. Because it's a breed that is, cows are meant to eat grass. Nothing else. They're not meant to eat grain. Not meant to eat corn, particularly. There's a whole story of the economic disasters, the corn industry. My God, I was just reading more about it today. Obesity in America, corn.
Yep.
High fructose corn syrup. Anyway, another aside. So they're meant to eat grass, and they convert grass into marbling. And the reason why, largely the reason why steaks are tender is because of the interstitial fat. It's also the way they use their muscles. And so these are non-stressed cows, and so the chances that a non-stressed cow is going to be tender are pretty good, even though she was old.
Yeah.
So we learned from that day that we could selectively pick cull cow for that purpose, and the flavor, there's sometimes, speaking of Rudolf Steiner said that our sense of taste would eventually evolve into a sense of wholesomeness. There'll be a time at which we will taste something and know that it's whole rather than refined, right, or adulterated in some way. We'll perceive the pristine nature, and that's what that feels like to me. When it's tender and it's enjoyable, you can really let that feeling open up to you. It's amazing.
But it shows you that the relation you have with the community that Charlie wants to bring that meat
That was
to
an
you
honor.
to prepare and have dinner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Full circle.
It's everything about that. It's fulfilled the ideal that I wanted to the ideal and the responsibility to put food on the table that the farmer could be proud of. That's the mission in a nutshell. I mean, all of this other threefolding is a mission too.
Right.
Well, the exciting thing too, I love what they create in store is that intersection of the consumer and the farmer. I mean, and you'll come in and there'll be Randy Lewis will come through the door, whatever. I mean, it's that interaction that you're not going to normally have in a retail food environment. The farmer's going back after you drop it off there.
Right.
And
Get
my
yelled at
customers-
if it's
yeah,
not brought in right. Yeah.
You want that, your farmer comes through the front door.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so does this wrap up the history of how?
I would say it's
I think we
It's
answered
a
most
version.
of our questions.
So,
I'm gonna skip to question 5 and then I'll come back if we have time.
Okay.
How has TS Designs impacted your business?
I've been selling a lot.
Just so many ways. So, from the economic exchange, we're proud of that relationship. It's a relationship among relationships like that we're proud of. And that goes. It's a mutual thing, and so that's expressed. People see it, and it's part of our story. TS Designs is interwoven in our story because of our friendship, because of our business relationship. There's that. The shirts are great. People love to have them. They wear great. They wear out great. They hold together. They don't get holes in them. They're just really good quality. That's what people want. When they feel it when they wear it, they taste it when they taste it. Eric's support, while he's not here, I'll speak nicely. His support as an individual, as a prominent figure in the Burlington, Alamance County, Chatham County, Orange County, but Chatham and Alamance particularly, his influence and integrity are parallel. And his story of changing his business model to meet the times, but also to meet his conscience, has, I'd say, bolstered confidence for us to do what we do. I would say all three of those things. Right?
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay.
You want him to re-say anything?
I didn't write that down, last part down.
Okay, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can email me on it. Reiterate.
Okay, the only other thing, which you've definitely gone over, but maybe you can wrap up, is why sustainability is important to you and how you practice it.
Wow, that's an interesting one. Sustainability is important to me because it's a stabilizing influence in the community and in a culture of an organization. But it's only the beginning. Sustainability is what you would call, what Rudolf Steiner calls, in a cognitive, emotional, physiological, embodied way, maintaining. So there are steps above maintaining. You want to be able to grow too. But growth without a sustaining, maintaining approach looks like exploitation. Looks like cancer in the body. It's not healthy. So maintaining, sustaining, being sustainable is the ground out of which you can grow in a healthy way. It's also the way in which you can reproduce what you do every day. It's the way that you can be creative, in other words. So innovation is not possible without sustainability, unless that innovation is merely technological. But culturally, sustainability is the ground out of which those things grow, I would say. That's what sustainability means. It's not the be-all to end-all, it's just the beginning.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, you're great at speaking. For sure.
They're great questions. That's what makes great speaking.
What time is it? Do we have time for another?
Sure.
Okay, the last question. Share a recent success or accomplishment of your company within the last 6 months.
Success or accomplishment within the last 6 months?
Or longer. Anything that comes to mind.
The biggest success and accomplishment is something that's ongoing. It has to do with the growth and the innovation again. That we got to a stable place economically, that we could be sustainable, a sustainable business. That we became an institution, really. That was incredible. Like the New York Times came, and it was like, okay, all right, we're here. We're not going anywhere. We are a North Carolina institution. That's okay. But you can't rest on that. What we have strived for here is to have a culture of internal culture of collaboration and autonomy. And I would say over the last 6 months, one of the most satisfying and profoundly important things in my life, including, I'd say one, because I have kids and a wife, so I wouldn't shoe them. But for within the store, let's say, within my work career, is the establishment of a leadership here that blows me away every day. That their sense of agency, responsibility, joy, creativity, their care for the staff, and the way the staff has grown because of that, I could never do. A business person alone could never do. The cultural infusion of that leadership, led and hired by Margaret.
Rock.
They wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Margaret. And Margaret would be here because of me. but you know, I understand that it's outgrown me in this respect. And to know that I can wake up in the morning and not have to worry about getting everything done myself or paying attention to everything myself that will communicate about it. Not as much as Margaret would like, particularly during the summer, but that now I have 3 bosses of me, and I'm just absolutely thrilled with that. That's the most important thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great. We definitely got enough.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I feel honored to have listened to your wisdom.
It's so
Yeah.
beautiful to share with people who get it.
Yeah.
It's just so encouraging. It's so easy to speak when you know people believe you.